With week tune-up 2 in the books, it was safe to say that many people were ready to get back to some real hard-hitting 5-star action. Well, week 3 presented that, with the possibility of some upsets and some questions to be answered. And one team could possibly be out of the college football playoff altogether. Want to find out the results of week 3? Stay tuned to find out on the week 3 review edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you all so much for joining us here on this edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, you're gabbing with the one and only Mr. CeeLo, and hope you guys are doing great. As I said, I want to continue to celebrate the life of my mother as she passed away 2 years ago. Want to continue to have her memory live on. I am working on a designer pin or just a design to have in my background to commemorate her memory, as she has not seen me do any of these, but she's always in my memory and always in my thoughts. Love you, Mom. Well, as you know, I'm one of those guys, I live for weeks like the one we just had, even though I was a casualty of that week. So Brad was very supportive. He's my buddy. Much love to you, bro. Thank you for holding it down for me. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough go at it, and Brad was already waiting to see what my show was gonna look like. But let's get into it nonetheless. I'm gonna go through these sleepers. As we saw Friday night, Indiana blew out Indiana State 73-0. Now, don't let the 37-9 score against Ohio State put up on Ohio fool you. This game was 13-3 at halftime. So, and I think they scored a touchdown, right? They made it 13-9, I think it was. And then Ohio State finally got it knocked out with Jeremiah Smith having 9 grabs, 153 yards, and a score. Sayin ended up with 347-3. Penn State 52, Villanova 6. Oregon 34, Northwestern 14. Boy, I thought this was going to be an absolute thrashing. But it turned out to be Northwestern either played a pretty good game or this was a game that Oregon said, nah, we ain't going to do that. Texas 27, UTEP 10, which led to the surprising booing of Arch Manning. Yeah, I don't know how to take that one. That one's weird. Yeah, y'all Texas fans don't want to do that. Don't do that. If you want him gone, keep doing that. Illinois 38, Western Michigan nothing. Oklahoma 42, Temple 3. Iowa State 24, Arkansas State 16. That was a close one. Alabama 38, Wisconsin 14. We all knew that was coming. I don't know why anybody was surprised. Number 20, Utah 31, Wyoming 6. Texas Tech 45, Oregon State 14. Michigan 63, Central Michigan 3. Auburn 31, South Alabama 15. Missouri 52, Louisiana 10. Well, let us get into the big dogs matchups of the week, starting with the number 3 LSU Tigers and the number 10 Florida Gators. Now, I'm going to start by saying this about Brian Kelly. Dude, stop whining. I mean, dude does nothing but make headlines for the wrong reasons. Dude, if people want to ask you about your poor performance against a 1-1 football team in your backyard, don't you have a right to answer them? A win in the SEC is a win in the SEC. You mean against the team that just got through losing to South Florida that gave you a run for your money in your building? What the? I think you're just being a coward and just being a first class. What? Sorry. I don't usually say those kind of things, but I'm sorry. You in your feelings. You're supposed to be in your masculine energy. Man up and answer the question.
You don't have to answer the question.
I'll answer the question. You can't handle the truth.
DJ Lagaway daggone made y'all look like scrubs. 33 or 49, 287. Just saying. I'm looking at this game and I'm saying to myself, you sitting here crying because, what? You sat there and said dreams go to die? That don't look like a dream that went to die him. I didn't even watch the whole game. I sat and said to myself, when y'all got up 13-10, I was like, bruh. Dang.
You weak, pathetic fool. Too easy.
I guess a win's a win to you, ain't it? Y'all got problems. I can tell you right now, y'all got problems. And like I said, everybody keeps talking about Garrett Nussmeier. I'm sitting here like, why? Dude was 15 of 27, 220, scoring an interception in his backyard. No doubt Florida's got a pretty darn impressive defense, but DJ Lagaway, despite 5 interceptions, just saying, I know the 5 interceptions look bad, but the truth of the matter is, you can call it what you want. Your defense looked okay, but they look good. I'm not going to dismiss that. But we all saw what happened with South Florida last week. They didn't score but 16.
Game over. Supreme victory. Perfect.
And as I said, I'm not overly impressed with Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, they keep putting him in this conversation, and I'm just kind of like, bro, really? And, you know, when you look at LSU, I'm sitting here thinking y'all scored 20 points, but 6 of them came off of a pick 6. That, in my opinion, sealed the game.
Who cares?
And, yeah, you ain't show me overly impressive offense that I was sitting here thinking that we were going to have. Defense, I have no doubt, is a very good team. But for this team to be coming up as short as they are on the offensive end, which was supposed to be the real strength of this team, not the defense. Defense was supposed to be in a supporting cast. They were going to have games where they looked good and games that they were, going to be in a shootout. You can sit there and cry like a big baby if you want to, Kelly, but the reality of it is this ain't what none of us expected. You can sit there and say, oh, I'm 3-0, but I can tell you right now, that little temper tantrum that you throwing right there, there's going to be one coming with y'all getting your butts beat down because guess what? Now you got Ole Miss coming up. South Carolina's going to be pissed off. Vanderbilt looks pretty darn good. Brad, we called that one. Texas A&M, Alabama, Arkansas. And then sounds to me like a guy who's crying because he already knows there's an L coming and possibly 2. I say there might be 3 coming. Because your offense ain't showed nothing. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, maybe he's hiding it. I hope so. I truly hope so. Because this bickering and crying, saying that they this and that, why don't you just say you didn't want to answer the damn question?
You want answers? I want the truth.
You cry about as much as Dion does.
You can't handle the truth.
Good win for the Tigers, but that rubbed me the wrong way when Kelly just went off like a big old brat. I mean, I don't see that going on except with my daughter, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, golly, is that a grown man or my daughter? LSU 20, Florida 10. Then we go to the game that me and Brad just felt for sure was going to be one of the bigger upsets of the weekend. And I know I called it, but unfortunately, the Miami Hurricanes got the memo first. Carson Beck was 23 of 28, 340 yards, 3 scores, but he did throw 2 interceptions. And Mark Fletcher, who had that big game against Notre Dame, had 16 carries, 120 yards, averaging 7.5 yards a carry, and he had 2 touchdowns. The most important thing I saw in this game is that as hard as the South Florida Bulls played, they gave up 205 yards on the ground to that powerful Miami offensive line. I am going to say that they're a good football team, but they still got to show me that they're for real. Keelan Marion had 6 grabs for 81 yards. Malachi Tony, 6 for 66. Tony Johnson, 2 for 64, had a big 51-yard gainer. Joshua Moore, 3 catches, 61 yards, 2 touchdown grabs. And and for what it's worth, Carson Beck is looking good, but guess what? He's played at home. He's been a homebody, and he's got Florida coming in next week, and then he has to travel to FSU. The stakes change when you go to a hostile environment. He's been comfortable because he had Notre Dame, Bethune, and South Florida, and now coming up Florida next weekend, he'll be facing them in South Florida. He ain't had to leave and go to a hostile environment yet. None of those guys. It's a totally different animal when you got to go play somebody in their building. See, even after they play Florida State, they got Louisville, Stanford, and Syracuse, NC State at home. But then after they get through with Stanford, they've got 3 of the next 5 games at Dallas against SMU, VTech, and Pitt. Now, I will say this, Pitt and VTech are going to probably be not much struggles because, Pitt lost one of their best players, and SMU needs a defense. So if that turns into a shootout, it could be an issue if Miami shows that they have a difficult time winning on the road. It certainly was a problem for them last year. And we know Carson Beck, when he gets rattled, it could be a situation where they could fall. I tell you, that Florida State game, 2 weeks. Oh, excuse me, it's 3 weeks. Beg your pardon. It's going to be one of those classics in October, ladies and gentlemen. But the Bulls gave it a valiant effort. Don't let the score fool you. A lot of people are going to say, oh, it was this, that, and the other. They were able to get the ball. Byron Brown had 274 yards passing. He had an interception. The running game from South Florida was not, they couldn't get anything going. I was surprised that Byron Brown wasn't featured more, kind of like they did with Haynes King. But ultimately, the Hurricanes' defensive front is just that good. And that's what I saw in this game. I saw the defensive front was so good. But Chaz Nimrod had 4 catches for 128 yards, including a 53-yarder, in which kept this game interesting. But ultimately, when the Bulls were able to get in good situations, they weren't able to convert, and that is never good when you're not only on the road, but when you're playing against a powerhouse like the Hurricanes in their building. So it was a situation where they were even in turnovers, but Miami, look at the time of possession, 36 minutes to 24 minutes. It's just insane how Miami was able to control the line of scrimmage and the clock, which I give so much credit to Cristobal and how he's built this offensive line. This line is massive, both sides of the ball for the Hurricanes. But I question whether or not that's going to be able to travel. We saw the yardage discrepancy is just huge, 576 to 332. As I said, looking at this team, Miami was not fooled. They knew what they were coming into. But penalties are going to be a huge thing to look at later on. South Florida, I don't know if they're done. I don't think they should be. I think ultimately there needs to be some consideration with the wins that they've had. I don't think they need to be thrown out just simply because they got manhandled by the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes are a top 5, top 10 team. But as I said, Hurricanes go to 3-0 and with their 49-12 victory over the South Florida Bulls. The Gators, they host the Gators this week, and they've got the Florida State Seminoles in 3 weeks. So the Battle of Florida, Miami now has the upper hand on the Battle for Florida. And I love that. I love the fact that the Florida teams are playing each other. Please, thank you, NCAA. Continue to give us games like this. It is some of the coolest things that you could ever deal with and see is that the Florida teams are going head to head. And that South Florida's in this mix. Probably one of the most thrilling games out there. And the reason I'm wearing this shirt, Georgia 44, Tennessee 41. Now, I gotta give Brad his props, and I already gave it to him on a personal level. You know, you got me, brother. But Tennessee is gonna kick themselves, not because the kicker missed the damn kick, but when you watch this Georgia team and the things they're not able to do, I saw a football team that really did not understand what it needed to do to get this game put away. Because, in my opinion, Aguilar, as good as he looked, he didn't look that well in a lot of situations. To me, this is the dude. He's got potential. Right now, he's playing way better than Nico Iamaleava. But in all fairness, you know, you look at Chris Brazel had 6 grabs for 177 and 3 touchdowns. Georgia didn't have nothing for this guy. And I'm sitting here thinking, dude, he's 6'5", 200 pounds. This is where I'd say to Josh Heupel, you don't need to have a job. Because here's the real reality. When you get a guy like this going up against that Georgia secondary, I'm sending him down the field every play, and I'm telling Aguilar, that's your first read. Next, I'm saying this to everybody else. Y'all all are going to be running slants, crossers, whatever, eating up that damn what's left of the field. That's just reality. And I'm sitting here watching this team run little comebackers, little out routes. And I'm going to be honest with you, there was a lot of plays I saw Georgia defenders getting chunks out of receivers, and they weren't getting called. But then, on the other hand, it was getting called. So, like I said, I hate SEC officiating. I really do. I hate it. It's not consistent, and they're not good. We saw that in the Notre Dame game. But I really thought Heupel beat himself. And the truth of the matter is the running game is just for it to be that type of sideline to sideline type offense. There's no creativity running the football. I mean, look, Star Thomas had 9 carries for 60 yards. Deshaun Bishop had 15 for 54 for a grand total of 124 yards on the ground. The one thing I can honestly say that impressed me with Georgia, 55 carries, 198 yards, 3 scores. Now, that impressed me because of the yardage. It did not, however, impress me how many carries they had. The only thing impressed me was the fact that they were committed to running the football, and Gunnar Stockton had 31 throws. Now, how? Here's the thing. Tennessee is not happy about that because, look, this is the one thing that we talk about all the time, you guys. What do we always talk about when it comes to these high-octane offenses? You want to see the number of plays that are going to be run, and you always want to end up on that positive side. Georgia, in my opinion, this is just me, I felt like Georgia Bulldogs did a great job controlling the clock, which is something Tennessee doesn't necessarily want to do. They want to run more plays. And when you look at the total yards, 502 to 496, that's got to enrage you if you're Josh Heupel. Because you look at the 2 turnovers, and they were interceptions. This is where Aguilar cost them the game. He looked good in a lot of situations, but then he looked bad. But then you go and flip this script, and you look over at Gunnar Stockton, 23 of 31, 304, 2 touchdowns. He did what he had to do. However, he didn't put the ball in harm's way. Now, I'm not going to say Gunnar shouldn't have been picked off. I'm not going to say that. But I'm going to say that Joey Aguilar, you can tell there's a stock difference between Gunnar Stockton and Joey Aguilar, because in reality, Joey Aguilar's throws should have been a lot better. His guys had his guys beat. Now, one of them, I think his guy slipped. I think it might have been. I'm not sure. I can't remember offhand. I watched this game, so I'm not sure what happened. But of course, you got to give congratulations to Georgia because they won the game. But Zachariah Branch, 5 grabs, 69 yards and a score. Landon Humphreys, 2 grabs, 59 yards and a score. Kobe Young, 4 grabs, 73 yards. And, you know, the 6'3", 215-pound player that he is, you look at it and you say, why are they not really pushing guys like Lawson Lucky and Oscar Depp and whatnot? You know, I was thinking the same thing. You know, although Lawson Lucky had 3 grabs, 25 yards, and Oscar Depp had 1 for 18, this used to be the staple for Georgia on offense. You know, running backs and big tight ends. I'm not seeing that this year. It's like Georgia's trying to do everything different than what they've done in their historic time. But a big win for Georgia. Anytime you walk into somebody else's building and snatch a victory, especially against a top 20 opponent, it's a huge deal. I get sick of hearing this home win in the SEC. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Yeah, big win for Georgia, 44-41. Look forward to many more of these battles in this conference because it is going to be fun to watch all of this play out. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And this next game is going to tell a lot about what that conference is going to have. The Texas A&M Aggies 41, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 40, as they were able to go into South Bend and absolutely put on an offensive clinic for the whole world to see. Both of these teams had an offensive clinic. It's a surprise for Notre Dame because Notre Dame was built to have one of the best secondaries in the land. And Marcel Reed, and I'm not going to say it's all Marcel Reed. I'm going to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff of Texas A&M. They were phenomenal. They did an absolute, they put on an absolute coaching clinic. Mike Elko and his guys really had it together in this game. I mean, there were plays that, the only one that I can honestly say, and this is passe, the only mistake that I can say Marcel Reed made was trying Leonard Moore. And ultimately, I believe I saw a shot where Mike Elko was over there telling him, he basically was telling him, don't you throw that ball back over there to him. And he did not. They did not. And ultimately, Marcel Reed was 17 of 37. Not impressive throwing the football, 360. 2 touchdowns and an interception. But Mario Craver and KC Concepcion were absolutely dynamic. Now, they were aided by some bad tackling by the Fighting Irish. I mean, I'm not going to go into what guys were absolutely just horrible. But if you're a Notre Dame fan like me, you already know the usual suspect. And there was actually an extra suspect in this one. But looking at what Texas A&M did was just absolutely just a coaching clinic. I can't give all the credit to Marcel Reed. I can't give all the credit to KC Concepcion and Craver. But they were absolutely fast. I mean, when you look at, this is something that Chris Ash had better fix. Because normally when Notre Dame plays, they don't give guys that are quick that much gap or that much space. These guys weren't even eating up the space. You know what they were doing? They were coming underneath and out running away from the guys that were covering them. So, in my opinion, I am not only impressed with the way Mike Elko and his offense ran, but now people are going to say, okay, Mike Elko's a defensive coach, so why are you congratulating him? Look, they went out to the transfer portal and they did a phenomenal job snatching up Concepcion and Craver. These guys were absolutely dynamic. And a lot of people, and I was one of those that was saying, okay, well, if we would have tackled them, they still had to break the tackle. That's what I was telling myself. They still had to break the tackle. And I get it. A lot of people are going to say, so why do you think they're contenders? If they scheme like this, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they made it easy for Marcel Reed. They made it absolutely easy. And there was no way he could mess this up. And his receivers want the football. And as I said, he balled out. And their receivers are absolutely good. And Le'Veon Moss had a game too. He had 3 touchdowns in this game. Although it was Concepcion and Craver. And want to give a big gab out to Nate Boerkircher, the tight end who caught the winning the tying touchdown in that game, because that guy had a huge penalty on the kick return, but he came back and he made up for it, and he was big. He was big on that drive. So big gab out to him and the Texas A&M Aggies. They have my respect. They're gonna be a team that's going to be interesting to watch. Although looking at the schedule, it's going to be pretty tough. Like I said, I see the reason why Brian Kelly is complaining right now, because they're hosting them in just over, I think it looks like 2 months. They've got to go there in about a month and a half. Then they got a brutal trek there. They've got to go to Fayetteville, go to LSU, go to Mizzou, and then they finish the season at Texas. So they've got a rough patch there. And I said on my other show, my Notre Dame show, that they're going to have 3 losses after this. And the reason why I say that is you're not going to be able to win a shootout with a team like LSU and a team like Texas. And I know a lot of people are going to say, what? They're all road games, people. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, they just got through beating Notre Dame. I know. You ain't getting your fans in Death Valley. You ain't getting your fans in Austin. Yeah, I'm saying. And I'm not hating. I'm telling you right now, when they get that much tape on you, teams are going to say, well, we're going to make them dig out some more plays. And they killed us on wheel routes. They were killing us. They did that a lot, and they did a whole bunch of drag and crosser routes with those speedy guys. If they can keep Marcel Reed healthy and they keep game planning it like this, Texas A&M is going to be great. Meanwhile, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish had C.J. Carr threw for 293, a touchdown, and a costly interception. As Jeremiah Love ran for 94 yards and a touchdown. Jadarian Price, 12 for 68, and 2 touchdowns. Eli Raridan, once again, putting up big numbers, 4 catches, 85 yards. Malachi Fields, 5 for 77. Jeremiah Love, 4 grabs for 53 yards and a touchdown. And Jaden Greathouse, 41, 2 for 41. Jordan Faison, 2 for 17. Will Pauling, 2 for 13. See, on the Notre Dame side, I'm just going to say this, and if you want to see my whole critique of the Irish, just go to my Talk Like a Champion YouTube channel, and you can find out what my true feelings are. I'm just going to say this. Ladies and gents, if there's a guy on the opposing squad where the entire fan base and even the modern world is saying, get him the ball, doesn't common sense dictate to you that team is going to make sure that guy doesn't beat them? I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it was the defense. The defense should have did some things. True, but this was one of those games where if you don't score, more than likely, it's going to cost you the game. See, this is how it went. Notre Dame got out the gates with a stop, with a touchdown. Then they get the ball back and they kick it to him. And then A&M ties the game up on that horrible tackling display that we saw where Craver was able to get free. Notre Dame jumps back on top with a 75-yard score of its own. And then they turn the ball over and we're only able to get a field goal. See, if you score a touchdown on that drive, guess what happens? You're up 21-7. Kind of like what Tennessee was with Georgia. Now, granted, Texas A&M answered. Notre Dame answers. And then A&M answers yet again. And then there's that bad interception where Notre Dame was up 24 for 21. And then it allows Texas A&M to take the lead. Then Notre Dame has that costly fumble, and then which was fortunate that A&M was unable to capitalize on. Then you look, and Notre Dame gets the ball first. Nothing. Which was good, because then they get the ball back and they go up 31-28. Then probably the most crucial call of the game was the fact that Notre Dame had the football and they tried to go for it with that. I don't understand why they did this, but ultimately they ended up going for it on 4th down, and then they're able to tie the game up, and ultimately it just turned into a back and forth showdown. And the fact is, You don't want to get into that. And then you get a lot of fans saying the defense couldn't stop nobody. It was just one of those games, and you have to be prepared for those. I don't care how good a defense you have. Notre Dame has not played in those type of games before, and it showed. But A&M, congratulations on the victory. As they go to 3-0, Notre Dame is 0-2 for the second time since Marcus Freeman took over as Notre Dame's head coach. And a lot of people are wondering, is it over for the Irish?
Who cares?
For me, they're going to need a lot of help. And that's ultimately what it's going to boil down to. I don't think the door is completely shut, but it doesn't look good. Vanderbilt 31, South Carolina 7. Now, me and my buddy Brad called this, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I said Lenore Sellers was overrated. Now, I'm not saying he's the reason they lost this game, because he was 6 of 7 for 94 yards and threw an interception. But Diego Pavia is just, he's just that dude. To me, he's like a lesser known version. Well, he's more known now than Haynes King, but right now Haynes King's got him beat by a little bit. 18 of 25, 177, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Luke Doty came in relief for Lenore Sellers, who left this game with an injury, had 148 yards passing and interception. But this offense was just absolutely, it couldn't get out of the damn driveway. And it was not pretty. And then you look at guys like Lassiter, who had his lone carry for 44 yards on a score. Cedric Alexander, 13 carries, 41. Diego Pavia had 24 yards on the ground. But as a team, they had 146 yards, averaging just about 4 yards a carry. That ain't good, because ultimately you need this team to not be holding the football. But then you had 2 big turnovers on fumbles that you cannot afford to have after your best player is not in the game. So, coupled with that, the South Carolina Gamecocks were not able to do very much. I mean, they ended up with 20 first downs on the game, but third down efficiency for 12. Now, what's crazy is that this team ended up with 328 yards of total offense. But look at the time of possession. 35 minutes, almost 36 minutes to 24 minutes. So, in a sense, they dominated the time of possession, but it's like, and how did they do that? So, you got 146 yards on the ground to 86. The penalty yards South Carolina had, 4 turnovers for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Look, you're not going to win. I don't care if you're home or not. This is usually the end result when you don't do it. And I think Diego Pavia is a good player. I think he's just got that aura about him. And right now, he's one of those guys that he better help Vanderbilt recruit the next version of himself, because this guy has guys on his team. He's one of those that you put that captain badge on him and he makes guys around him believe. And when you have a guy that is like that, he has an infectious attitude, you can't help but to follow. And that's what you want your quarterback to have, that kind of attitude that makes you want to follow him into battle. And when you have that, most people are just willing to, follow you into battle. That's what they say. When you have a lot of guys that can make you play better and want to play better, it is an uplifter for the entire team, and it makes playing not only fun, but it makes you invite competition in. Not a very statistically driven game, but ultimately it's one of those games where you look at it and you just say, dang. Next, we have an improbable game that I said you guys better look out for. Remember, go watch the show. I said it. I said that if Ole Miss wasn't careful, Arkansas was going to make this a game. And they did. It was 31 to 28 at the half. And the scoring kind of subsided a little bit. But I'm going to tell you, this was a game that I was flipping back from because, of course, you know what game I was watching while it was on. But it was ultimately a pretty darn fun game to watch. And I'm going to be honest with you. The Razorbacks lost this game, but a lot of it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. This game could have went to anybody. It had the same makings of the Georgia-Tennessee game. And you look at how this game, they did everything right except when you look at Mr. CeeLo's keys to the upset, only one thing cost the Arkansas Razorbacks. That one fumble. That was it. That one flipping fumble. I'm telling you guys, listen, if you're ever an unranked team and you're playing a ranked team, you can't lose. You almost have to be perfect. And I've always said, you can win. You got to win all three. My philosophy is you got to win all three of them. Every now and again, you can get away with 2 out of 3. Primarily if the two of those 3 is turnovers and time of possession. Those are the ones that you primarily want to win. If you can win those and get by with those, you generally have a really good shot at winning that game. But when you look at how, like I said, I'm not saying Arkansas is a bad team, but I'm saying Ole Miss. Because when we look at this game, Arkansas had a missed field goal to start this game. And then it just looked a lot like the Texas A&M Notre Dame game. You got touchdown by Ole Miss, touchdown by Arkansas, touchdown by Ole Miss, and another touchdown by Arkansas, touchdown by Ole Miss, touchdown by Arkansas, touchdown by Ole Miss, touchdown by Arkansas, field goal. Now, I'm going to quote somebody that's an SEC guy. Man, they look like the Big 12. I don't play no defense. I don't look like no defense. And this the SEC? But as soon as kickoff in the third quarter started, by the way, it was 31-28. Ole Miss had a punt. Arkansas drove the ball 36 yards and ultimately had to punt themselves. And then Ole Miss drove it 93 yards for a touchdown that pretty much sealed the deal. And then once again, Arkansas had another missed field goal, ladies and gentlemen. 6 points. Then Ole Miss kicks a field goal. Then Arkansas scores a touchdown, making it 41-35. Then there's a punt, and then Arkansas gets it back with an opportunity to go down the field and win it. And Jaylen Brown fumbles, and that's the game. So it's not like Arkansas didn't have an opportunity to win this thing. So while Ole Miss wins the game, and that's all that matters, I've got questions. The first question is Arkansas really that good, or is Ole Miss really not that good? I'm just going to say, you don't walk into Oxford and just win. Just saying. Really entertaining game, to say the least. Trinidad Chambliss was 21 of 29, 353, and a touchdown. He also ran for 62 yards. Kewan Lacey had 44 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Oh, Chambliss also had 2 touchdowns as well. Taylon Green had 115 yards on the ground, but he also threw for 305 yards on 35 attempts. So I remember listening to somebody on a podcast. He said if Taylon Green can get it together and be turnover free, he could be one of the more dangerous mobile quarterbacks in the country. Yeah, you look at this game, and outside of the 2 missed field goals and the fumble, I see the 2 fumbles is the missed 2 missed field goals. Cannot have that. That is one of the more underappreciated parts of your game as a contender. You got to be able to get points when you put that kicker out there. You almost have to be right around 85 to 90%. Tennessee found that out the hard way. 41-35, Ole Miss pulls off the win. This shouldn't be something that everybody's excited about because, as I said, you won and you were at home. And finally, guys, going to the coup de grace, the game that me and Brad also called. I'm going to gloat about it because we called these two upsets. See, great minds think alike. Georgia Tech 24, Clemson 21. Now, granted, it wasn't the game that I was efficiently thinking that it was going to be, because ultimately the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets had an opportunity to really blow this game open early. I was watching this game and I was really, I saw how Haynes King was he was owning this game. This game, he was putting a stamp on this game. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that Georgia game where he was just absolutely putting his fingerprint on this game. And I mean, you know, you look at it, I'll tell you how this could have been worse. When you go back to this game and you look and you see the turnover on downs when they could have taken the field goal. But I do like the attitude of, hey, we know we can't just kick field goals. We got to do our thing. So I thought that interception they had and they weren't able to get anything out of it was huge. The interception that Klubnik threw. I thought you needed to score. And there were too many times that it looked like Tech couldn't get out of its own way, especially when you had that fumble by JT Byrne. And, you know, you give Clemson back the ball even though they don't score, and you go down and score after they kick the ball, but then Clemson comes back down and they score. And then what was so messed up is Tech had that ball for 6 minutes, and then Clemson decides they're going to take the ball for 6 minutes, and then here goes, I don't know if they thought that we give them back the ball with 3 minutes left, they're going to be able to score. I really don't know. But once again, a guy who is not getting enough love in the land, and maybe it's because he's playing for the Yellow Jackets, is Haynes King. This is a guy that when he's healthy, he's one of the scariest players on the planet, because it's like now he's getting to a point where he's understanding, and his touch on the ball and his accuracy is getting there. He was 20 for 28, 211 yards, 7.5 yards a pass, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But then on the flip side, you go 103 yards on the ground and a touchdown on 25 carries. And then Jamal Haynes, this is a guy, you know, I talked about the Haynes and Haynes connection. To me, Jamal Haynes had 26 yards and a score. I'm going to say it like this. You better let Jamal Haynes beat you and not Haynes King. This is why I say this. Haynes King had 103 yards and they won by 3 points. If Haynes King is able to do what he's doing, here's a hint for all of you that have to play Georgia Tech. If you play Georgia Tech, and I'm talking to you, Syracuse, because I don't see nobody else on the schedule except Georgia that can beat them. And they actually have to go to Atlanta to play that game. Ladies and gentlemen, now we know Georgia Tech's due to drop a game they normally don't. But next week they got Temple. Next week after that, they travel to Wake Forest. That's a dangerous game. Virginia Tech at Duke, at NC State versus Syracuse. That could be a game because remember, Syracuse has a way of ending dreams. At Boston College, and then they go to Pitt. Georgia Tech could find its way in this college football playoff, y'all. Georgia? Better look out. Clean old-fashioned hate. They just might get you. Bzz. Bzz.
It's not funny, Ed. Hey, shut up!
24-21 Jackets. For Clemson, Dabo's got a lot of questions. And even me and you, Brad, we and many others out there, we gotta kind of take a step back and wonder. Clemson ran for 174 yards, averaging 5 yards a tote. Meanwhile, Cade Klubnik is not looking like the Heisman candidate that we all assumed. Now, they had 381 total yards to Georgia Tech's 358, but the question remains, can this offense get going? 2 turnovers, a fumble, and an interception. And how many times do we tell you guys, you got to win the total amount of yards, you got to win the turnover battle, and you have to win time of possession. They lost 2 of them. Time of possession and turnovers. Who got the victory? Georgia Tech. Even though they weren't ranked higher. But if you lose these 2 battles, even if you're the higher ranked team, that's not a good formula. Clemson's got questions that need to be answered. But let me know what you guys think. Was there a game on here that you guys wanted me to talk about that I absolutely either ignored, overlooked, or just plain Jane didn't want to talk about? Make sure you go comment down below. If you are a first-time subscriber, see if you can engage with Brad. Brad likes it when you guys engage and whatnot. I do it too as well. But make sure you like and subscribe to the show so we can get the platform going so I can start creating merch. Next, try to go to my Facebook page at the same name, Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Also join the group so you can find out all the cool things that are going on over there. And finally, if you want to keep up with me and find out what all the things I'll be caught up in season, just go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo and drop me a line. Or if you just want to like some of the pics or the reels that I will upload. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.